Hi and welcome to the channel all about Salesforce Marketing Cloud. And today we're going to have a look at data extensions in the system. So one of the concepts that I find myself having to explain very often are data extensions, their use and their versatility within the platform. There's the terminology by Salesforce, which we'll have a look at, that describes a data extension as simply being a table with fields of data about your contacts. Data extensions can be standalone or related to other data extensions. You can use data extensions to run queries, pull information, and send a subset of subscribers to a subset of subscribers. And then another official article by Salesforce, or help article by Salesforce, describes it as a table within the application database that contains your data. You can use the data to run queries, pull information, and send to a subset of subscribers. Data extensions can be used in Marketing Cloud Engagement Connector, import engagement data extensions into Data Cloud using your engagement connector as well. So there's a slightly more advanced use case in that situation, but we're just going to look at the simple use of a data extension within Marketing Cloud. So data extensions reside, you can access data extensions in two places. So you can go first to the email app. You can see I'm in the email app, Email Studio, and I'll navigate my way to subscribers and data extensions. Another way of accessing data extensions is through your contact builder, which is going to be on your main menu. And you can see contact builder there, and it's going to give you a very similar navigation on the left as to that you'll see under the email app. So in this case, you'll be able to see I've created a folder here called My Folder. So if I wanted to create a new folder, all I have to do is right click on New Folder, and then I'll have the ability to create a new folder. In this case, I'm going to leave it as is. And let's have a look at creating a data extension. So to create a data extension, all we have to do is go into the top right of our screen, click on Create. In this case, I'm going to pick a standard data extension. You can also create a filtered data extension or a randomly segmented data extension. So in this case, we're just going to look at very simple example, the standard data extension. The filtered one is really only if you have existing data and you want to establish a filtering rule. So that data extension is going to create a subset from the original data extension, and a random data extension is just going to randomly select subscribers from a source data extension. So in our case, we don't have any data yet, so we're just going to go ahead and click OK on that. And we're going to give this a name. So in my case, my data extension. And then I can either give it an external key of my choosing, or I can let the system generate that and give it a description, and I can make that sendable or testable. So these are these are important concepts to be mindful of. So if something is sendable, then it just tells the system that it's expecting, first of all, at least an email or a phone number so that you can contact people. Those are the sort of typical use cases. You can also push notifications and integrate with WhatsApp and what have you. But for now, well, let's think about email and SMS. So making it sendable just effectively makes it appear within your sending dialog box when you come to that. And then testable allows you to also test to it. So if you've got any test contacts in it, then you can test using this data extension. So we'll leave those two checked and move on to the next step, which is data retention policy. In this case, I'm going to leave it off. If I wanted the data within this data extension to automatically be deleted, either individual records or all the records and the data extension, I can do that by simply turning this on and choosing the option I wish to use. But in my case, I'm going to leave it as off. I want to leave that data extension in there. It's not going to disappear. My records will remain in it as long as I need. So this is really only useful if you have high volumes of data, or you have limited license to use data within data extensions. Otherwise, by and large, you can leave that off. And then this is where you set your fields up. So let's say, for example, I want to have an email address in here. I can choose the data type as email address, and I want to make sure that I don't get any more than one email address in my data extension. I can set that as primary key. And then let's say I want first name and last name. And then, I don't know, let's go for postcode or zip. And in this case, I can just leave those values as they are, and can increase the number of characters that a particular field will accept. I can also reduce this. So for example, if I only need 10 characters, that should be enough for me there. And I also have the option to either make any one of these nullable and add a default value if I want to. So I probably don't want to have a default value for postcode, last name and first name, but I might want date created. So that's just going to give me a date value for when this record was created. So I can say I want the system to automatically add the current date to that, and I can make it nullable, meaning that I'm not expecting that to be a part of my import file. If, for example, if I want to make sure that I don't during my import process, I don't miss out on having records that are missing a postcode, and can make this field nullable. So what that will mean is that if I've got my email address, first name and last name, which are all the non-nullable fields, but I don't have a postcode, I still accept that record to come in to the data extension. So I can still use it. And it won't affect my import. So if I'm missing a record in the postcode field, it'll be fine. Now, slightly more advanced use case where we might not want the email address to be the send relationship. So I'll explain that in a moment. Let's say I have an ID from an external system, or I have a contact ID from my CRM. Then I want to use that value in there. So if my external system has an identifier, I also want to use that and make sure it's not nullable. Typically, I would set this to be the key instead of the email address. I would then say I want to use my contact ID in this case. And that's if you already have an identifier that sits outside of the system. You want to import it. You want that identifier to continue to be the identity of your contacts within the Marketing Cloud. That's the way you would do it. And then you would set that as your send relationship. So you'll see in this drop down all the fields that I've created above appear there, and I get to choose which one is going to be my send relationship within the drop down on the bottom left. And just to explain this concept a little bit, the send relationship essentially is forming a relationship between the database or the system table that sits behind the scenes, and the data extension. So think of a data extension as something that can effectively hover over your system table. So your system table primarily is just going to be interested in knowing email address and subscriber key, which in this case is our contact ID. You can make your subscriber key email address, although if you are using an identifier outside of the system to keep track of who's who, then it would be better to have your contact ID or your contact key or your ID, depending on the terminology used in the external system that is feeding the Marketing Cloud. And that way, then you can persist that identity throughout the system, and then you can handle things like email address changes and all that a lot better than if you use the email address as the subscriber key. But essentially, the send relationship is just building that bridge between is telling the Marketing Cloud which field should it think of as the identity for that individual in the system. And the reason that is really critical is because the environment, the system is going to use the identifier in all the different tracking tables. So in the open, clicks, bounces, unsubscribe, that's how the system manages that in the back end. So you just want to make sure that identifier is what you know it to be, so that you can persist that identity within the Marketing Cloud. Now I'll click on create, and that is our data extension created. So very, very simple, high level. What is a data extension, how you can use it, how you can create it. In the next video, I'll do a separate video of importing data. I think that's a topic that deserves its own coverage. So yes, hopefully that was useful. And if you like the video, you know what to do.